My son makes six figures. Yet the day I open his fridge, I felt my knees weaken, empty shelves, a single yogurt cup, half a lemon, two lonely eggs. And in that moment, I realized something was deeply wrong. Not just financially, but in the very soul of my son's married life. People think poverty always looks like hunger, but sometimes it looks like silence in a luxury condo. When my son Michael married Vanessa, a beauty queen turned corporate PR star, I thought he was set for life. They were the kind of couple who sparkled in photos, the kind who made neighbors whisper, goals, and relatives beam with pride. Michael, my only child, my miracle baby, ambitious, brilliant, kind, and Vanessa, at first glance, gracious, polished, a smile sharp as crystal, but perfection has a way of cracking in silence. I hadn't been to Michael's home in months, not because I didn't want to, but because newlyweds deserve space, and I was trying to give my only child room to build his life. He had always been the boy who needed nothing but a gentle nudge and a quiet cheer from the sidelines. I trusted him to call me when he needed me. Then last week, my phone rang, and the tremor in his voice moved through me like cold water. Mom, do you have time tomorrow? No cheerful tone, no warm confidence, just quiet desperation disguised as politeness. I arrived the next day, greeted by a doorman who treated me like visiting royalty, a sign that from the outside, my son's life appeared polished, enviable, pristine. But when Michael opened the door, I saw the truth bleeding through the cracks. My boy looked smaller, not in body, but in spirit. His eyes were tired, the kind of tired deeper than sleep could fix. His hug lingered too long, as though his heart needed the contact more than his body did. I stepped inside. The condo was curated to perfection, like a showroom, not a home. Beautiful furniture, gleaming countertops, a tasteful scent of expensive candles, but no warmth, no laughter, not a single framed picture, not one sign that love lived here. Mom, let me make you tea, he said, voice soft, almost pleading for normalcy. He opened the fridge, and the world tilted. Michael, I whispered, my chest tightening. Where is the food? He swallowed hard. We're budgeting this month. Budgeting? My son earned more than most families combined. Budgeting was not the reason for an empty refrigerator. I stepped closer. He turned to fill the kettle, and that's when I saw it peeking above his shirt collar. A faint bruise, yellowing, stretching across his clavicle like a silent scream. His hand froze on the kettle. Michael, I whispered, look at me. He didn't move. Please, he murmured, voice cracking. Don't ask questions. Vanessa gets upset when the door latch clicked behind us. A pause. High heels. Crisp footsteps. A perfume that arrived before she did. Cold, sharp, expensive. And then Vanessa walked in. Perfect hair. Flawless makeup. Designer bag. Casually hanging from her wrist like a trophy. A smile stretched across her face. Elegant, practiced, hollow. Oh, she said, voice sweet like glass candy, dangerous if you bite too hard. Your mother's here. She moved toward me with open arms. Not warmth, just performance. Mother Thompson, she crooned. Always a pleasure. Her eyes flicked to the open fridge. Then to Michael. A tiny, lightning quick shift in her expression. Annoyance, warning, control. In that moment, The coldness in that room felt alive, watching us, listening. I hugged her back, but inside, a storm began to churn, because I'd seen eyes like hers before, controlled, calculating, polished on the surface and sharp underneath. And I had seen a bruise like that before too, many years ago, on a neighbor's son who never spoke about the chaos inside his marriage. Until it was too late. We talked, or rather, Vanessa performed conversation while Michael stayed silent. I watched him carefully. The subtle flinch when she placed her hand on his arm, the way his breathing tightened, the hollow attempt at a smile. Something evil was hiding in plain sight. And then, as I reached for my handbag, I noticed something tucked beside the fruit bowl, a cream envelope with my name written on it in Michael's handwriting. Not mailed, not presented, hidden waiting. As my fingers brushed the corner of it, Michael's body tensed just for a fraction of a second. And in his eyes, I saw something I will never forget. A silent plea, a message that said, "Please don't open it in front of her." My hand froze. My heartbeat thundered. Vanessa's gaze sharpened like a knife sensing danger. And right then, right in that breath between suspicion and fear, I knew this visit was not casual. It was a cry for help disguised as tea and politeness. Because whatever was inside that envelope, whatever truth my son had written for me, it wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about marriage. It was the beginning of a storm that would tear their lives open and reveal a darkness I wasn't ready to face. I pulled my hand away from the envelope and pretended not to notice it. My son's eyes flickered with relief, and that tiny moment of desperation broke something inside me. I forced a smile, sipping tea I could no longer taste, while Vanessa talked about spa memberships and quality social circles as if she were auditioning for approval. But my mind was already racing. As soon as she stepped into the bedroom, perhaps to change her shoes or check her reflection again, I grabbed the envelope with trembling fingers. "Mom," Michael whispered, voice taut. "I'm not opening it here," I whispered back, sliding it into my purse. "I promise." His shoulders sagged with quiet gratitude. For a moment, he was my little boy again, the one who used to hug me after nightmares and whisper, "Don't leave yet." Vanessa returned moments later, smiling like she owned the room. "Leaving so soon?" she asked, voice coated in honey and venom. "Yes," I replied, matching her tone with a sweetness she couldn't read. "I just remembered I have something urgent to attend to." Which was true. The urgent thing was whatever was inside my purse. Vanessa leaned in for a second hug, the perfume stinging my eyes. "You must visit more," she murmured. "Michael misses you so much." But her fingertips pressed into my arm a little too firmly, a delicate pinch that said, "You're seeing too much." I didn't flinch. I'd raised a son through life's storms. I would not be intimidated by a woman whose smile didn't reach her eyes. Michael walked me to the elevator in silence. As the doors closed, he whispered, barely audible, "Call me when you read it, but not today. Please, not today." The elevator doors sealed, and I felt like I'd just watched my child drown behind glass. I made it home before opening the envelope, my hands shaking not with age, but dread. Something inside told me this was not going to be ordinary. My heart pounded against my ribs as if trying to burst free. Inside was a single handwritten letter. "Mom, if you're reading this, something has gone very wrong. Please don't panic. Please don't confront her. Just listen. I need your help, but I can't speak freely in my own home. Not anymore. My breath caught. Not anymore. Not anymore. I continued reading, each stroke of ink tightening a knot in my stomach. I am not starving, but I am not allowed to spend money on food without permission. Everything is tracked. Every receipt, every account. My bank cards are monitored. I don't have access to my own salary. She says I'm financially irresponsible, and she's protecting our future. I don't know how to fight this without losing everything. Please don't tell her you know. I need time. Mom, I'm trapped in my own marriage. My hand flew to my mouth. Financial abuse. Psychological control. My son, the confident, successful, gentle boy I raised, trapped like a caged bird inside his own life. The last lines were shakier, the script desperate. If anything happens, if I suddenly stop answering, check the safe box at First National Bank. Under your maiden name. There's more you need to know. I just pray it won't come to that. I love you, Mom. Please don't give up on me. I sat there, frozen, letter trembling in my grasp. My son was living in fear, and the woman he married, the woman I once welcomed into our family, was not a loving partner. She was a captor. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady the shaking. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Don't reply. Just tell me you got home safe. And underneath it, a second message. Delete this after reading. A chill crawled down my spine. I typed only, got home safe, and deleted the conversation. For a moment, I sat in eerie silence, staring at the walls of my home, the same walls that once echoed with my son's laughter. Now, they echoed with fear. I needed a plan. I needed proof. And most of all, I needed to protect my child. Before I could think further, another notification buzzed. This time, not from Michael. A message request from an unknown number. Are you alone? I need to talk to you about Vanessa. Now, my heart stalled. Someone else knew. And suddenly, it wasn't just my son in danger. It was me. I stared at the message, the glow of my phone slicing the dim hush of my living room. Are you alone? I need to talk to you about Vanessa. Now, my first instinct was fear. Not for myself. I'm old enough to face shadows. But for Michael. Whoever this was knew something dangerous. Something that made them contact me instead of him. My fingers trembled as I typed. Who is this? No answer. Seconds passed, thick with unease. I rose slowly and checked my door locks. Habit, not paranoia. Though tonight, paranoia might have been wisdom in disguise. Scripture whispered in the back of my mind. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. My phone buzzed again. I worked with your daughter-in-law. Please, just listen before you block me. Worked with her. Past tense. That told me everything and nothing at the same time. If this is a scam, I will report you. It's not. And this isn't safe by text. Do you have WhatsApp? I exhaled. WhatsApp meant calls could be encrypted. This person wasn't reckless. I typed, yes, send your number. A second later, it came through. Before calling, I whispered a prayer, quiet, raw, not elegant. Father, protect my boy. Give me discernment. Then I pressed call. The voice that answered was shaky, breath hitching like someone trying not to panic. Mrs. Thompson? Yes. Who am I speaking to? My name is Elena. I used to be Vanessa's assistant. Assistant. I could already imagine it. Polished corporate office, glossy smiles, painful silence behind closed doors. Elena, I said gently, why contact me? A pause. A soft sob. Because I didn't help your son when I should have. My chest tightened. This wasn't gossip. This was guilt. What did you see? Elena inhaled shakily. I know Vanessa looks perfect. That's her gift. She knows how to be adored. But she controls people. She isolates them, makes them feel like they need her, then takes everything. My pulse hammered. I stood by the window, staring out into the night, the quiet suburban street suddenly feeling like a battlefield. Why tell me now? Because she did it to me too. Her voice cracked. She took credit for my work, humiliated me in meetings, got me removed from projects. I tried to leave twice. She threatened to ruin my career, said she'd make sure no company touched me again. There it was, the control. The power games. Spiders do not announce their webs. They just wait for butterflies. And Michael, I whispered. Elena's breath hitched again. I've seen her monitor his spending. I've heard her talk about training him like he's... She swallowed hard, like he's a pet. A chill sliced through me. But the worst part, she whispered, voice trembling, is that she doesn't love him. She loves controlling him. There's someone else, and I felt my stomach drop. Betrayal layered upon betrayal. Do you have proof? I asked quietly. Another pause, then a soft clicking sound, as though she was pulling up files. Yes, screenshots, emails, even a video. She bragged about it at work, said she'd keep Michael obedient until she was done building her own brand. Done. As if my son were a phone she could trade in once upgraded. Rage bubbled in my chest, not loud, but deep, quiet, dangerous. The kind of rage only a mother feels when someone harms her child. Elena, I said softly, send everything. I will. But her voice dropped to a whisper. Please be careful. If Vanessa finds out, she won't just go after Michael. She'll go after you too. Just then, a loud thud, thud, thud shook my front door. I nearly dropped the phone. The knock wasn't hesitant, not gentle, not neighborly. It was firm, official, authoritative. At 11:48 p.m., my heart froze. Mrs. Thompson? Elena whispered, are you still there? Another thud, thud, thud. I swallowed hard, forcing calm into my voice. Stay on the line, I said softly, placing the phone on the table, screen glowing like a warning beacon. I walked to the door as quietly as a woman my age could. My hand hovered over the peephole. 2 police officers stood there, hats low, badges glinting in the porch light, and behind them, in the shadows of my walkway, a familiar silhouette. Vanessa, arms crossed, face unreadable, watching my door like a predator watches the dark for movement. Cold crept up my spine, like fingers made of ice. The officer knocked again. Ma'am, police. Could you open the door, please? My phone vibrated on the table. Elena's still there, waiting, holding her breath. I opened the door, just a crack, the chain lock still fastened. Yes, officers? One of them offered a polite, practiced smile. Evening, ma'am. We received a concern call regarding a welfare check. A welfare check. My voice barely held steady. For who? For you, ma'am. Behind them, in the dark, I could see Vanessa move. My blood ran cold. So that was her move. Report me? Make me look unwell? Unstable? It was a strategy older than time. Discredit the witness before the truth surfaces. Who called? I asked quietly. We can't disclose that, the officer replied. But I already knew. No other enemy stood some meters from my doorstep in the shadows, claiming to care. Ma'am, are you safe? The second officer asked. Yes, I answered calm and composed. I am perfectly safe. A beat passed. The officer glanced behind me, scanning my living room through the small opening. My phone screen lit again. Elena's voice, tiny and terrified, whispered through the speaker on the table. Ma'am. The officer's brow lifted slightly. Is someone else here? No, I said quickly. Just. Another call buzzed through. Unknown number. The officer shifted. Ma'am, we need to speak inside. No, you do not. My voice steadied, steel under velvet. I know my rights. Unless you have a warrant, you will not be entering my home tonight. The silence that followed could cut air. Vanessa tilted her head, calculating cold. The lead officer cleared his throat. We just want to make sure you're not in distress. I'm not, I replied. But I am deeply concerned that someone would deliberately lie to law enforcement to create the illusion that I am. That landed. Sharp. Precise. Even in the shadows, I could see Vanessa's jaw tightened ever so slightly. The officers exchanged glances. One nodded. All right, ma'am. If you ever feel unsafe, call us. I will, I said, and closed the door slowly, deliberately staring directly into Vanessa's eyes until the last possible moment. The deadbolt clicked. The house fell into silence. I exhaled shakily and rushed to the phone. Elena. Yes, ma'am. Is everything all right? Yes, it's just the police. Vanessa is trying to play the same card he played with my son with me. Elena, listen to me. I whispered as if Vanessa was still close by. Send me all the evidence you have. Thank you for this. I stared at my reflection in the glass, a mother alone in the quiet twilight of her home, and felt the edges of fear press closer. This was no longer about an empty fridge. It was not just control, not just financial abuse. This was a game, a dangerous one. And Vanessa had just made her first move in the open. But she underestimated something. She thought she could isolate my son, control him, starve him, silence him. She forgot whose child he is. He is not alone. He has a mother, a praying mother, and I will burn the earth to ashes before I let anyone destroy him. I sank to the edge of the sofa, phone cradled to my ear, and let the room close around me. The hush, the small house noises, the clock's patient tick. Outside, the night pressed close like a velvet glove. Inside, something else moved. Intention, a resolve older than anger, a quiet that becomes action. At that moment, I had the nudge in my spirit to get up like a warrior and pray for my child. I began to whisper stitching scripture into the dark, short, fierce declarations that pushed back the cold. I spoke words I'd learned when my children were small, the ones that had anchored me through childbirth and exams and late-night fever-ridden bravados. I took them up now, like arms to shield my son. Psalm 91, I said, and read it slow. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. No harm will overtake you, for he will command his angels concerning you. Each line I spoke sounded less like memory and more like armor being hammered into place. Just then, I got a buzz on my phone. Michael, at 12:48 a.m., my heart froze. Why was he calling this late? Why did his name on my phone suddenly feel like a warning instead of comfort? The phone vibrated again. Persistent. Urgent. Michael. I whispered into the phone, and his voice came raw but steady. I'm here, Mom. She's not back. I can't sleep. His words trembled. I pictured him on the other end of the line, the glow of his phone painting his face in the dark, the house around him silent. For now. Good, I said. Listen to me. Breathe. Quiet your heart. Repeat after me. I gave him short scriptures, ones he could hold like a small stone in his pocket, something to press into his palm when fear crept in. Ephesians 6 verses 10 to 18, I called the passage I'd always used when I needed courage. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God. I walked him through belt, breastplate, shield, helmet, sword, each a word, each an action. Take it up, Michael, speak it out. Psalm 23, he whispered back, and I heard the tremor ease a little. The Lord is my shepherd. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I told him to say Isaiah 54 verse 17 aloud. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. And to declare Romans 8 verse 31. If God is for us, who can be against us? I asked him to claim 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. We prayed a long, fierce prayer together, voice overlapping voice, like two hands striking a flint. Lord, surround Michael with your hedge. Confuse the plans of those who scheme. Send watchers, angels, to close doors, to keep his mind clear, to bring truth into light. Give him courage. Give me wisdom. Turn deception to dust. He repeated it, then again, louder. I could hear the rhythm of his breathing slow. Courage does not always arrive all at once. Sometimes it comes in syllables, in the cadence of a prayer said twice, 3 times, until the terror loosens its grip. Mom, he said after a long time, quieter now, I feel lighter. The words were a tiny victory, a flash of dawn. Vanessa's absence tonight bought us a pocket of safety, a rare and fragile thing. He could pray without being watched. He could think. He could breathe. We kept praying. We prayed warfare prayers until my throat grew hoarse and the house seemed to fill with whispered psalms. I prayed not for vengeance, but for protection and for the stubborn, slow work of truth. I asked for witnesses, for paper trails to reveal themselves, for doors to open that Vanessa thought were permanently shut. By 5 a.m. my knees ached and my voice had thinned, but I felt the steadying of something inside me, a quiet readiness that comes after a long night of vigil. I told Michael to write down every word he heard from Vanessa, every time she lied, every bill she mentioned. Records are armor too. I reminded him. Keep everything. I told him about what Elena said, ABD, the evidences she has. I promised him I would not be passive. When our prayers wound down, we read a final promise aloud. The righteous are as bold as a lion. And then, softer, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. We said amen. And the line stayed open a moment longer until both of us could finally let go. Outside, a car whispered by. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass and watched the first pale edge of the horizon's steel color into the sky. For all the fear, for all the danger that had just knocked on my door, there was this, a son who had heard truth and begun to stand, a mother who would not be silenced, a night of prayer that had turned fear into fuel. The break of day would demand action. Tonight had given us fuel. I sat there until the early light bled in, going over plans in my head, sorting names into phone lists, numbering steps like small stones across a river. I would not be reckless, but I would be relentless. The game had changed. They had moved openly now. And that gave us an advantage. Light finds what shadows try to hide. As dawn warmed the curtains, I prayed one last short prayer for both of us and set the kettle on the stove. There would be calls to make, evidence to gather, and people to wake. The day was coming. The fight had only just begun that I sat in my living room, a single lamp glowing like a quiet guardian, the letter from my son folded on my lap. Fear tries to scream. Faith whispers instead. And God whispered to me in that moment, "Be still, but be ready." By morning, my resolve was steel. I dressed carefully, not like a frightened mother, but like a woman with purpose. The kind of purpose that shakes heaven and unnerves hell. I tucked my handbag close and called a taxi. I wasn't using my car. I didn't want Vanessa to track me. When a woman like her begins to feel threatened, she digs claws in deeper. I wasn't walking into battle visible. I was going in like smoke. The bank lobby was cold marble and whispered money. Officers in polished shoes, clerks in crisp shirts, security cameras watching like mechanical hawks. I approached the teller, a young woman with a warm smile and gentle eyes. "Good morning. I'd like access to a safe deposit box under my maiden name." I slid over my ID. My hands didn't shake. Mothers don't tremble when their children's freedom hangs in the balance. She checked her screen, then froze, her expression shifting from polite to cautious curiosity. "Just a moment, ma'am." She walked to a supervisor, a gray-haired man with the posture of someone who'd seen more secrets than dollars. He came over, asking quietly, "Mrs. Christine?" That name. I hadn't used it in over 30 years. "Yes." He lowered his voice. "We've been instructed to notify the account holder if anyone attempts access." Account holder, not box owner, not authorized user. Account holder, as if someone else controlled it. My stomach tightened. "That's incorrect." I replied evenly, "That box belongs to me." He tapped his tablet again. "The account notes say there's a secondary authorization on file." Secondary authorization on a box linked to my maiden name? Only one person could have known that name connected to anything financial. Michael. But what terrified me wasn't that he shared access. It was who he might have shared it with. Who is the secondary? My voice stayed polite, sweet as Sunday tea, but with thunder beneath. He hesitated, glancing around. Then, softly, "Vanessa Collins." Ice water poured through my veins. She had access to the one thing my son hid from her. Somehow, she had already found a way into his last sanctuary. The supervisor leaned closer, whispering, "She came last week asking about the box. We didn't grant access. She didn't have your maiden verification. She left upset. Upset. That meant one thing. She knew, or suspected, and like a vulture circling, she was waiting to strike." "Ma'am," he said gently, "would you still like access?" "Yes." I breathed. He led me to the vault. Thick steel, cold air, the hum of machines guarding treasure and truth. When he opened the small metal box, I braced myself. Inside lay a flash drive, a sealed manila envelope, a single photograph of Michael as a teenager hugging me after his graduation. I touched the picture and my heart ached. A mother knows when her child is in chains. I opened the envelope first. Inside were documents, bank statements, credit reports, property records. But they weren't Michael's. They were Vanessa's. Hidden accounts, transfers to a man in California, an apartment lease in another city, wedding ring insurance cancellation, a prenup amendment request form to revoke Michael's rights if he suffered mental instability. She wasn't just stealing. She was preparing to discard him after taking everything he had. I felt the ground sway beneath me. Then I saw the last page, a printout of an email draft. Her writing, cold, calculated, subject. Regarding my husband's condition, Michael has been unstable, showing signs of emotional breakdown. I stopped reading. My eyes burned. My lungs forgot how to breathe. She wasn't planning to leave him. She was planning to have him declared mentally unfit, to trap him, strip him, take everything, silence him. I lifted the flash drive next, knowing what it likely held. Proof, the kind that destroys facades. I carefully closed the box, returned it, thanked the manager, and walked out into the morning light that suddenly felt too bright for the darkness in my chest. Outside, my taxi wasn't there yet, but another car was. A sleek black SUV idled across the street. Windows tinted, engine rumbling. Still, watching. The hairs on my neck rose. My phone buzzed. A blocked number. I answered, voice quiet as a prayer. Hello. Vanessa's voice slid through the line like ice dipped in silk. You really shouldn't have gone to the bank. My heart stopped. She knew. The game wasn't hidden anymore. It was here, open, hunting both of us. I didn't speak. Silence is power. Mrs. Thompson, she purred, you're making dangerous choices. And then, as if she was smiling through the phone, you're too old for war. She hung up. I stood on the sidewalk, sunlight warming my skin, while her words chilled the marrow of my bones. Too old for war? Let her believe that, because a woman who underestimates a mother's love has never met a mother who prays, especially one who's about to fight for her only child. And God help the woman who thinks age weakens a mother's resolve. She just declared a battle she will not win. I didn't tell Michael I had gone to the bank. Not yet. Sometimes the truth must be planted in silence and watered in prayer before it blooms. After a few days, he called. Not a text, not a hesitant, Mom. He called. His voice shook the moment I answered. Mom, she wants us to go to dinner tomorrow. With her friends. There it was. The next move. A narcissist never strikes in the dark. They create a stage and expect applause. Go, I whispered. Say nothing. Let her talk. He hesitated. She's different lately. Too calm. Too sweet. It feels wrong. It was wrong. She was preparing her final performance. I breathed in faith, breathed out fear. Michael, listen to me. I said softly, you don't confront a snake while it still thinks it's the lion. Silence. Then quietly, okay. The next evening, I dressed in a soft navy dress, pearls at my neck, and strength in my spine. Mothers don't attend battles, unprepared. They arrive like prophecy. I entered the restaurant shortly after they were seated. A private dining room, dim lights, polished laughter. Vanessa's crowd. Glossy hair, empty souls, money without morality. Michael sat stiff beside her, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Her smile when she saw me, silk over steel. "Oh," she chirped to her guests. "My mother-in-law decided to join us. How lovely." One woman leaned forward. "We heard Michael hasn't been himself lately. Poor thing." Another whispered, loud enough for all to hear, "Stress can make people break." Vanessa clutched her chest, faux concern dripping like poison. "He's been struggling, confused, emotional. I'm trying my best to support him." Gasps, sad nods. She stroked Michael's hand. He flinched. A performance, a pity trap, a setup. God help her. She thought she could bury him right there. But mothers bury lies, not sons. I stepped forward, calm as prayer. "Actually," I said softly, "I think Michael is seeing very clearly." Her friends looked at me, curious, waiting. Vanessa's smile twitched. "Really?" she asked lightly. "Do tell." I placed my purse on the table, every eye on me. "Yes," I replied. "He's finally seeing the truth. About loyalty, about intent, about the kind of woman he married." Her knuckles tightened around her wine glass. "Oh, come now," she laughed, brittle. "He's unwell. He doesn't know what he's saying half the time." I looked at my son. His chest rose sharply, as if bracing for impact. "Honey," she crooned too sweetly, "tell everyone how much you've been struggling, okay?" Michael lifted his head slowly, eyes tired, but waking. "Yes," he murmured, "I have been struggling." Her triumphant smile returned. Struggling to understand, he continued, voice shaking but rising. "How the woman I loved could turn into someone who tries to destroy me." The room froze. Vanessa blinked, smile dying at the edges. "What are you talking of?" "I trusted you," he said, louder, voice cracking. "And you tried to make me believe I was losing my mind." A pin dropping would have sounded like thunder. Her face twitched, panic rippling under porcelain composure. "That's ridiculous," she hissed quietly. "They don't know what's good for you." "I do." She made the mistake abusers always make. She forgot the room existed. "Tell them," she whispered sharply, eyes wild. "Tell them you need me." "Silence," he whispered. "No, Vanessa, I need God, and I need peace." She slammed her glass down. "He's unstable," she blurted. He needs help. He. I slid the flash drive, an envelope onto the table. Vanessa stopped breathing. "What's that?" one of her friends asked. "Proof," I replied quietly. "Bank records, private accounts, evidence of manipulation, financial isolation, relocation plans, and mental competence filings you drafted." Gasps, whispers, eyes widening, her composure shattered like glass thrown against stone. You went through my things?" "No," I answered. "I went through his." She stood abruptly, chest heaving, lip trembling. "You will regret this." She spat. "Both of you." Michael stood too, shaky but tall. "No, Vanessa. For the first time in months, I won't." A hush fell. He looked at her. Love gone, illusions dead, spine reborn. "We're done." Her face twisted. Rage, disbelief, shame swirling into something feral. You pathetic. I raised a hand gently. Careful. Demons show when angels are watching. She glared at me, then stormed out, heels stabbing the floor like claws. Silence. Guests stared, shaken. Michael collapsed into his chair, face in his hands. I sat beside him, placing a trembling hand on his back. He sobbed quietly, and I did not say, "I told you." Mothers don't gloat in victories that cost blood. I simply whispered, "It's over." He lifted his head, tears reflecting candlelight. "Mom," he choked, "what do I do now?" I took his hand, strong, warm, alive. "You heal. You build again. And you remember one thing." He looked at me, eyes opening like dawn. "She almost convinced you that you were broken. You weren't. You were blinded. But God opened your eyes." He nodded slowly, a breath shuddering out like a man taking his first breath after drowning. Hope, raw and trembling, but real. As we walked out together, I whispered a prayer. "Thank you, God, not just for victory, but for returning my son to me." And somewhere in the quiet of heaven, "I believe God," whispered back. "The truth sets free. Always. Financial abuse is quiet. It does not always yell. Sometimes it smiles, signs documents, and whispers lies in the dark. It tells the victim, "You can't survive without me. You don't make good choices. You're weak. I know better." And little by little, it steals more than money. It steals confidence. It steals identity. It steals peace. In this story, Michael wasn't starving for food. He was starving for dignity. Financial manipulation in a marriage is emotional and spiritual betrayal. It turns one spouse into a controller and the other into a prisoner in their own home. But here's the truth. God did not design marriage for control, but for covenant. He did not create spouses to compete, but to complete. Love does not isolate. It protects. Love does not punish. It heals. Love does not drain. It nourishes. And most importantly, love never removes power from the other. It honors and strengthens it. Abuse hides in silence. Freedom starts when someone says, "I see you. You are not alone." Michael didn't need someone to fight for him. He needed someone who would stand with him until he could stand again. And that is what love looks like. It does not force people to be strong. It stays until they feel strong again. If you or someone you love is struggling with financial control or emotional manipulation, here are steps toward healing. Recognize the behavior. Control disguised as protection is still control. Seek support. No one heals alone. Document and safeguard important information. Set quiet boundaries while planning safe steps. Lean into faith, prayer, and wise counsel. Remember, your value is not tied to anyone's approval. Freedom begins not when the abuser stops, but when the victim remembers who they are and who God says they are. Beloved, marriage thrives where there is mutual honor, not silent suffering. You deserve safety. You deserve partnership. You deserve peace. And you deserve love that builds, not breaks. Now, I ask you, have you ever seen control disguised as love? Have you ever stayed silent because fear spoke louder than your voice? What is one step you believe brings healing back into relationships like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading may find courage in your voice. If this story touched you, if it opened your heart or gave you insight, Kindly subscribe to Family Love and Legacy, where we tell stories that heal homes, strengthen faith, and remind us what love was meant to look like. Because families are worth fighting for, and your legacy begins with the choices you make today.